Can you guys hear me? Hello? Hey, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. We have like about a minute or so, and then we're going to get started.
Okay.
Hey guys, can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay, 'cause for some reason it's not coming up on my screen where I can see myself, but I guess that's okay. All right, so I'm going to leave it unmuted for now until other people start joining us. I want to go ahead and start on time. Can you guys see the slide presentation as well?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right, very good. All right, so let me just minimize this so that I can actually get started. Okay, so we have, I think, 11 people registered today, which is pretty phenomenal. So I'm really excited. I'm sure that some people are going to be running late, so we will go ahead and just get started with the presentation so that we can stay on time. The title for today is What's Love Got to Do with It? I thought that this was a pretty awesome title to talk about relationships, right? I'm hearing a lot of noise in the background, so I'm going to go ahead and mute you guys, okay? Because it's a little distracting for me. Hold on one second. Okay, there we go. All right. So we've had someone else, Cheryl just joined us, so that's awesome. All right, so as I said, we're going to go ahead and get started so that we can stay on time. But what's love got to do with it? I wanted to really focus on relationships during this month of February, of course. And I thought that this was a perfect title because all relationships can be so difficult. And I think people get really, really confused about what love is and how to show love and what's all involved in love, right? So that's where the title came from. I'm trying to advance. There we go. All right. So wanted to congratulate everybody that's here today. I'm glad that you're participating. I think that this is a great opportunity to grow and to learn how to love more. And we're all here basically to share in this one big love, right? So that's what I'm wanting to do today, is to help grow people's relationships and to grow love within themselves as well. I'm still having some problems. Okay. Oh, sure. That's okay. So let me go ahead and mute here. All right. Yes, I had a lot of static in the background, so I want to take care of that. All right. So, all right. So big love. I love this picture. It's so cute. Because to me, this is a little girl who is just representing what love really is, and love of herself, right? So many times, guys, when kids are born, they automatically know what love is. I truly believe that. But as they continue to grow, they get told all these different things about what love is and what it isn't. And they stop knowing exactly what love is. But here's a little 2-3-year-old who definitely knows what love is, and that's love of herself. So why did I decide to have this webinar? Gateway to Counseling is on a mission. Some of you guys know that already. I want to spread light, love, joy, and peace to millions of people. I just look around and I see how many people are suffering and hurting. We just had that massive shooting over in Florida, and we know that kid has gone through a lot of trauma in his life. That's his parent, right? And I know that people are trying to reach out in certain ways, and together from the news, but I was looking at an interview with one guy. There's I think 4 or 5 people who were killed as Jewish. And so they were interviewing this rabbi, and one thing he talked about was we need to bring prayer, meditation, quiet time back into the schools, and he talked about darkness. He talked about the darkness that's surrounding so many people in this world, and that we need light. And I believe that if you guys look at the website, look at a lot of the pictures that we do, it involves light, because I believe that people are living in so much darkness that here at Gateway to Counseling, that's what we're trying to do, is to bring light, love, joy, and peace. And we're trying to reach millions of people. So it is my belief that life doesn't have to be a struggle that most people face. I think some people buy into this idea of life is hard and life is always going to be hard. And I don't think that's true. I know that life can be hard based on our decisions and based on our reactions to events that occur that are out of our control. So I think if you learn to have better responses, then life doesn't have to necessarily be such a struggle, right? And then there are keys to living a better life. And that's what I want to do. I want to be able to give those keys to individuals out there so they experience more joy. So what is love anyway? All right, so what is love anyway? Love is patient, love is kind, love is not envious. We all know this, right? This comes from Corinthians, comes from the Bible, right? How many people have seen this at a wedding and on an invitation and in a card, and it's the biblical definition of love. So love is patient, it's kind, it's not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. I think that is so important. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoice in truth. I think you get that part. We get into this competition with our spouses, with our children, with our friends. Who's going to be right? Who's going to be wrong? And if that person is wrong, we're like, hey, yay, they were wrong, I was right. That's not love, right? It bears all things, believe all things, hope all things, endures all things. That's the biblical definition of what love is. Now, that's one definition, guys. And we all know that just because we know the definition doesn't mean that we can do all those things. So, another definition of love. This is from the book Letting Go. Some of you know that I absolutely love this book by Dr. David Hawkins. He's now deceased, but he did some absolutely wonderful work. And he says about love, on the level of love, we are heartfelt, generous, nurturing, affectionate, steadfast, forgiving. Love is protective, it's collaborative, it's uplifting, it's holistic. It's characterized by warmth and gratitude and appreciation and completion and vision. It's sweetness. I love that word of sweetness because it wakens your senses, right? It's a taste. Love is a taste that kind of gets into your whole system. When I think about love, I think for me about like a warm brownie that just came out the oven, right? It's a taste, and it just, it fills you, it warms you, it satisfies you. Love is a way of being. It is an energy that radiates when the blocks to it have been surrendered. And what he's talking about there, guys, is that as a therapist, I know in working with people that they have their guards up. They have a wall that's built up in front of them and on the sides and behind. And they are protecting themselves from love. I've seen it in relationships where, and you guys probably have seen this too, where there's a guy and a girl and they're dating and things are going really, really well. And then someone does something really stupid, right? And you're like, why did they do that? It's because they're sabotaging the relationship, right? Because there's a wall, because they don't want to feel love and they are protecting themselves from love. And that might sound a little crazy, but there are people out there who actually want to protect themselves from being hurt, and therefore they don't want to love. And sometimes we as therapists are trying so hard to work on, helping them to feel love, and we don't even realize that they have these blocks up. It is more than just an emotion or a thought. It is a state of being. For me, I've gone through I've gone through the whole calendar year of A Course in Miracles, and I'm now going through the entire book. And it's a very long book. And it's very powerful. Like, you probably can only read a couple of pages at a time, and then you just got to sit and meditate on that for a couple of days. And one of the things that I've learned is that love is just everywhere. It's not just what I do. It's not what I say. It's who I am at my core. And if I am a loving person at my core, then that means I can overlook people's imperfections. I can overlook their mistakes. I can walk outside and feel love just because the sun is hitting my face, right? I was in the Dominican Republic last week, and sitting there on the beach and watching those waves just roar in was not only meditative, but it was love. It was like, wow, this is just God's love, right? So that's what love is. To me, it's God's love, right? I just said it. There are a lot of examples before us of people who have loved. Saint Teresa is a great example of love. And, I look at some of the stories about her life and when she was alive, and, I was here, but I didn't really follow her as much. She was just so giving and so giving and so giving. And it's like, how much can you give, right? I mean, sometimes we question that. How much can we give of ourselves to another person or to all these people? And God will tell us when. We will have this spiritual, what's the word I'm looking for? This spiritual awakening of when we need to draw the boundaries. Because believe me, we have to draw boundaries. Love is not this state of being and this condition where we just get used up. You're not a doormat. So I don't want anyone to ever think that. I always look at Jesus. Jesus was so funny to me. If you read the stories in the Bible, he is hilarious. Especially when he says to people, you hypocrites. And we're like, oh my God, he didn't just say that. He's supposed to be loving and caring. But he is being loving and caring when he's being confrontive of people's behaviors, when he's holding them accountable. I think this is so important because it's a part of love that people don't talk about. When you love someone, you are going to focus on the truth, and you're going to focus on people being responsible for their actions. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you have a family member who has gone from place to place to place, job to job to job, and now they're out of work. And you have a place where they can come and stay for a while. So you, of course, am a loving person, so you invite them in. And that's great. But this person proceeds to just sit on their butts day in and day out, not looking for a job, not doing anything to take care of themselves, and always has an excuse, right? I knew a girl who was like that, and she moved from city to city and town to town and state to state, always saying that no one wanted to help her. And she would stay with someone for maybe 6 months, maybe even up to a year, until they realized that she was not doing anything and was not going to do anything. Well, the best way to love that person is to stop enabling those behaviors and say, no, you have got to be responsible for yourself. And I am going to love me so much that I am not going to allow you to take advantage of this situation, right? So, yes, we realize that no one is perfect. We all make mistakes. But I think, guys, the key is mistake. Because if I make a mistake, if I'm walking down the road and I trip and fall into a hole, that's a mistake. I didn't know it was there. 2 days, a week later, I come on walking down the same street and I trip and fall in that hole again. Well, maybe it was another mistake because I thought maybe they fixed it, right? I mean, who would think a hole would be there that long? But the third time, I need to know to look and make sure if that hole is there or not. If I fall into that hole again, it's no longer a mistake. It's something that I've done. So I am going to go back up here because I've been talking for a while and I want to see if people have questions at this point. So I'm going to unmute you guys all for just a little bit. All right. Does anybody have any questions or comments at this point? Hello?
Hi, it's Cheryl. I think you really hit on a piece that was very important, and that is protecting ourselves from hurt. I believe that there's a lot of people that don't even recognize, they say they want love, but then when it comes to them or an opportunity comes to them, they're so afraid of getting hurt, they don't even realize how they're self-sabotaging themselves. And I think that was a good thing to say.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I see it all the time, especially in our adolescent population, especially in working with children who are in CPS custody. These adolescents, man, they've gone through a lot, and they reach out, and they're always in a relationship with somebody, but they really are terrified to love. So, all righty. Anybody else have any brief comments right before I mute you guys again? All right. Hello? All right. I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody, and we're going to move on. Okay. All right. So I want to get into that there are 8 different types of love according to ancient Greeks, right? So I'm going to just kind of talk about all of these. The first one that we have is like this, erotic love. And we all know that kind of love, right? It's named after the Greek god of love and fertility. And that's your husband and wife kind of love, right? And then we have this affectionate kind of love, which is a friendship love. And that type of love is very important as well. We have our family love. We all know how important that is. We have this kind of playful love, which can sometimes be the beginning of a relationship where, you don't know if it's going to be friends or lead into more, but it's a kind of playful beginning of a relationship kind of love. We have an obsessive love, which is this imbalance. Oh boy. I was speaking to someone just the other day, an adult female, and she was telling me about the guy, and he was so possessive. I mean, like early in the relationship, you could see all those signs there. And sometimes, guys, when someone is obsessive with you, we think is pretty cool, because let's say that you have, let's say a woman who hasn't dated in a long time, and this person's always calling, always texting, pops up at the house and surprises her and is doing those kind of things, and you think it's kind of sweet until until you're out of town with your friends, out in San Antonio or something, and he drives by at the restaurant that you're at with your friends, and he's all the way from Houston. Yes, that's happened to someone that I know. And it was like, whoa, where did that come from? So sometimes that obsessive love, you kind of like it in the beginning, but then you realize it's just way too much. You have the enduring love, which is more mature and developed. When I think of a enduring kind of love, I think about a person who's taking care of their elderly parent. I think about a husband and wife that have been together for many years, and they're both up in age, and they both have different physical ailments, and they just love each other, and they support each other, and they take care of each other. To me, that's more what I think of for enduring love. Self-love, that's my favorite one, because I think that people miss that part. I see so many people who are trying to find love and trying to know how to love another person, but they don't even love themselves. They don't even accept who they are. I remember someone telling me, what they were looking for in a mate. And then they were telling me on another occasion what they liked and didn't like about themselves. They didn't like their nose. They didn't like their chin. They didn't like their stomach. They didn't like their hair. They didn't like their feet. I'm thinking, how are you going to find Mr. Right when you don't even like who you are? I mean, can you change your feet? Really? I mean, anyway, I just thought it was funny, and I know I'm laughing, but it was just funny to me. And then, of course, we have agape love. That's unconditional love. That is selfless love. That is where you can love a person regardless of who they are. That's when you can love a person even if they don't love you back. And I think that's the most important part of it. They don't love you back necessarily, or they don't love you the way they're supposed to love you. We say supposed to love you. Maybe they're mean and rude and cruel and those kind of things. You can still love that person. Now, I'm going to say this. You can still love that person. That doesn't mean you have to be with that person. There's a complete difference. We work with so many people that are in domestic violent relationships. And I am the first to say, if your spouse is beating you, whether it's a woman beating a man or vice versa, you don't need to stay in that house with that person and be subjected to abuse at any cost. You don't have to do that. No one wants you to be hurt. We want you to love yourself to the point that you protect yourself, get out of that relationship, but you can still love that person, right? I think it's hard for children of divorced parents because as a gentleman was saying to me the other day, he still loves his ex-wife. He's dating another woman, but he still loves his ex-wife. He knows they can't be together, but he still loves her, right? So I think that's very important that sometimes people miss that part. So many kinds of love. These are some of the ladies in my cooking club that I belong to for like 12 years now. And we take a trip every year. We go somewhere for Labor Day, and we're over at the Trump Vineyards, believe it or not. And the wine was awful, but the place was beautiful, just absolutely stunning. And so when I look at this picture, it represents not only that friendship love. These women have become my sisters, and we have a really good time together. And no, we don't get to see each other all the time, but we try to see each other at least 4, 5, 6 times out of the year. And like I said, we do take this big trip together for about 5 days. And yes, we do get on each other's nerves by day 4. But it's still fun, and we just love each other so much. But the other thing about this picture that I love is just the scenery. And this picture does not capture it at all. But the Trump Vineyards are just immaculate. I mean, it's beautiful. And you're outdoors, and it's fresh air, and it's cool, and it's just unbelievable, to be honest with you, that he's created such a lovely place. So I'm going to unmute you guys again and see if we have any other comments. Any other comments, guys? No? Anybody have a comment? All right. So, I'm sorry, go ahead. All right, so I'm going to mute you guys. If you have something, I think you can go ahead and be texting me or chatting with me on the side here. So I'm going to go ahead and mute. All right. So, some of you might know the book that's written by Gary Chapman called The 5 Love Languages. I read this book many years ago. I thought it was so important in helping people to understand that just because you love someone doesn't necessarily mean that you're communicating that love in a way that that person can receive it. So his whole premise is that we all have different love languages. We have a way that we communicate love and a way that we receive love. And so, for example, me and my spouse, I might like to receive love a certain way, but he likes to give love a certain way. Okay, I'm going to come back to that. So he says that love is essential to our emotional health. Everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to be loved. I mean, that's just the way we were made, guys. I mean, again, you go back to the biblical days and you go back to Adam and Eve, and Adam had everything, all material possessions, all the animals. He had total control over his domain, and yet he was not completely happy until Eve was born, right? Taken out of his rib, right? And so she was created. And so that's when he became happy. So we were made to love. Don't ever doubt that. I know that some people want to say, oh, you know, I'm beyond that. I'm above that. I don't need that. We all need love. Love could be the most important thing to our basic needs. With adequate supply of affection and love, children can grow to be responsible adults. Without that love, they can be emotionally and socially challenged. I don't even need to talk about that. You guys see that all the time. A person who doesn't have love and how they grow up. the CPS, Child Protective System, scares me. It terrifies me because we have children from the age of maybe 18 months taken away from their family, and they go from home to home to home to home. Maybe they were adopted at one point, and then that didn't work out 2, 3, 4 years later, and they get put back into the system, and they have no concept really of love, and they have no roots. And we have so many of them that are living in a residential treatment center for years. I'm talking about 5, 6, 7 years, where they have no consistent person in their life. I don't know what they're going to end up looking like when they become adults. It scares me. It terrifies me, because they don't have that consistent love and acceptance for who they are. But I think that when you have a child who grows up in a home with loving parents and they're encouraged and supported, and yeah, there might be some conflicts, but they know that they are loved, that child grows up with more confidence and self-esteem, and they accomplish more in life. And that's a difference, right? It is a big difference. So Gary Chapman teaches us that there are different love languages, the different languages to love. If we can learn how the other person gives and receives love, then half the battle is won. So I'm going to go over these. Love language number 1, words of affirmation. That's your verbal compliments, your words of appreciation. Words are extremely powerful communicators of love. The object of love is not getting something that you want, but doing something for the well-being of the one that you love. He says, I am amazed by how many individuals mess up every new day with yesterday. Let me repeat that. I am amazed by how many individuals mess up every new day with yesterdays. And he's talking about living in the past. I don't care what kind of relationship you're in. If you're constantly going back to yesterday and things that person did before, you're never going to get to a good space in your relationship in the present and for the future. You just can't. It's like you're hanging it over their head, right? We need to learn how to use kind words and words that are, humble and uplifting. And again, I'm not telling you to be a doormat. I'm not telling you ever to be a doormat in any of your relationships, but I am saying to you to learn how to use your words to uplift that person and encourage that person. It says the tongue has the power of life and death, right? And that's from Proverbs 18:21. Love language number 2, quality time. I think that's me. Giving someone your undivided attention. Guys, no cell phones, no texting, no social media, no TV. Your undivided attention is so powerful. I was with some friends maybe a couple of years ago, and it was girl time, and one of the girls was dating, and the guy showed up, and so he joined us, and no big deal, right? And we're all laughing and talking, and this friend of mine was constantly on social media. I mean, constantly on social media. And I didn't know the guy. Then Kevin's my other friend did. And I'm just sitting there watching this interaction like, whoa, this is crazy amazing, because she was not present at all. And of course, unless she wanted to take a picture of them together so she could post on social media. That is not undivided attention. I am a person who loves undivided attention. Yes, of course I do. But I like just sitting down on a couch, and looking into that person's eyes and talking for hours. I love that. And it's something to say about that. And of course, you're not going to do that every day, guys. No, that's crazy. But to just spend time, to be able to go out to dinner and just you two be alone, to be able to lay out at the pool or at the beach and just laugh and talk. the same thing goes with your kids. How many times do we see parents, they're in the car on a cell phone talking and driving, the kids are in the back seat, and they forget all about their children. You can't be doing that. That's not giving them love. When this is neglected, the person begins to feel insecure in your love. They begin to think that they're not important to you, that everyone else is more important. Love language number 3. So this is receiving gifts. This is not me at all, but I know some people that they love gifts because it's a visual symbol of love, right? It's like saying, oh, you got me these earrings, you got me this necklace, you got me these shoes. That's their way of feeling love. And that's not right or wrong, guys. I mean, it's like saying, you took the time to do this for me. Something as simple as, I do a lot of different kind of work. And so there's a lady who's a receptionist at one of the offices that I go to. And her name is Karen. And she's just so sweet. And she's just so kind. And I will just be out somewhere and I will just pick her up, a plant, or I will pick her up some candy, or, whatever. Because I really appreciate her. And that's not my primary way of showing love to someone, but it means a lot to her. And then the other thing that I do is I just always make time to just stand and talk to her at her desk and just let her say whatever she wants to say to me, And sometimes it's 5 minutes and sometimes it might be 15, 20 minutes. But it really makes her feel good, right? Because I don't think a lot of people listen to her. So to this person whose primary love language is receiving gifts, the cost of the gift will matter very little unless it's just completely out of line with what you can afford. I mean, if you can afford a gift of $200 and you give them something for $3, they're going to say, okay, this doesn't mean a lot to you, right? And even gifts that you make, how many times do we love the gifts that kids make for us, right? So gifts also say that you understand that person and what is important to them. If you go out and you get them, let's say, I don't know, let's say you get them a necklace and they don't even wear jewelry, right? I mean, they're not into that. That means you don't understand them. You don't really get them. You're just getting them something. So when that person's love language is receiving gifts, you also have to know who they are to get them the appropriate gift. And some people just like money. Nowadays, the younger people, they do like money. I hate just giving money to people because it's so easy and it's thoughtless. But some people really like that, and that's what they get into, right? So you have to understand that person. And if you're given a gift card, then what does that say? It might say a lot to one person. Let's say that you give them a gift card to Macy's and you know that that's their favorite store. Or I sometimes like to give gift cards to like the movie theater because I know that person really loves movies. Okay, then we're heading there. Love language number 4, acts of service. This is doing things that the other person for the other person that they like, okay? So you seek to please by serving, to express your love by doing things for the other person. And that's what I like to give a lot. That's a big one for me as well. And you can have more than one, guys. But I love to show my love by cooking for my family and having them over at my home and just doing all those kind of things and waiting on them hand and foot, right? This is a major one for me. As I said, this is how I personally express love. What we do for each other before marriage is no indication of what we will do after marriage. That is a quote. I think that's so important because I've heard people say in the counseling session, well, she used to cook and she used to do this and she used to do that. But as soon as we got married, all that went away. I thought she loved cooking and she really don't. I always think that's funny because sometimes people just do things to kind of get that love, but it's not really who they are, right? And I'm going to unmute you guys here in just a moment. And of course, love language number 5. This is a lot of guys, just so that you know. The physical touch, holding hands, hugging, kissing, the sexual intercourse, those kind of things for the married couples. For some, mainly men, their primary way of communicating love is through physical touch. It helps them to feel secure. I'm going to repeat that. It helps them to feel secure. This is so important for men. It's where their ego is. They want to feel that they can please you and satisfy you and take care of you. And they do that through sex. And you have to know if that's really important for your mate. Because if you start to say, no, I don't feel like it. No, I got a headache tonight. And you go these days and weeks without having sex, their love language is going empty. It's getting empty. And they need that. They need to feel that security. And you guys know how some men can be. If you're not allowing them to have that physical touch with you and to have that intimacy with you, then they start thinking that you're getting it from somewhere else, or they start looking for it from someone else, and it becomes really confusing, right? So I would really encourage you to talk to, if you're married, to talk to your mate and see how important this is for them. Think of a baby. Physical touch is very important for a baby. It's extremely important for an infant. If you have that baby and you're not holding and touching and all those kind of things with your baby, they can't thrive. They can't. It's the same way for a man. He's like a baby. So touching is so easy and yet so neglectful. It starts with the morning kiss. It ends before bed with a kiss. It's something as, touching on the shoulder or, holding hands. It is not something that you have to do for a long period of time. You're driving in the car. You're both in the front seat. Touch his hand for a moment, then let it go, right? That's all it takes. That means a whole lot for so many people, right? It speaks volumes. So, what is your love language? I'm going to unmute you guys. This is my family, by the way. We were at the beach when it was cold outside in January. This was of last year. And we just spent a weekend down at the beach. All right, so I'm going to unmute you guys and all right, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right, great. Anybody have any comments about their love language?
This is Cheryl. My love language is acts of service.
Mm-hmm.
And also affirmations, but acts of service is what really makes me feel like I'm loved.
So when people give you acts of service towards you, or when you?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and vice versa.
Okay. All right, good. Cheryl, have you read this book before, the 5 love languages?
Oh yeah, I have several copies, and I also have my clients take it because it really is eye-opening for them to see what their needs are, and it's a great way to start finding communication, because you can have 2 people in a relationship that love each other and they don't think they're being loved because they're not recognizing the things the other person is doing, thinking that they're being loving. Because it's not something that they understand. It's not their love language. And as soon as they can realize that, if they work at it, they can find ways to have the other person know that they really do love them, so that they can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps change perspective really well. And it's interesting that even with young adults and their parents that are having some issues, their parents don't necessarily have the same love language as they do. And so it gives them a chance to, if they both do it, to have something to talk about. But also, if they're fairly high functioning, they can start to see well, wait a moment. That's her love language, and this is what she does for me, so they can kind of see maybe things from a different point of view, while at the same time learning how to have each of them be more communicative by doing the love language that is, is the one that really works for the person.
Exactly, exactly. Anybody else have any comments to say? All right, Pam, are you out there?
I am. I'm shaking my head.
What are you shaking your head about?
Just that I didn't have any comments. I think this is a great learning lesson, the way these are set up.
Okay.
I like them.
All right, good. All right, so I'm going to mute you guys again, and then we're going to wrap up, and then I'm going to unmute you guys one last time. So. All right, so I'm going to continue on here. All right, so from Dr. Hawkins. Again, Dr. Hawkins is someone that I really treasure and have a lot of respect for. This man had a PhD, a MD, and just went through a lot in his life from his own personal healing that he had to go through. And so he just got to a point that he was able to, just rise above and transcend, right? So he talks about love being healing. We all know that love can be very healing, and it transforms our lives. I mean, you take a person, for example, who feels absolutely unloved, and you give them love, and you surround them with love, unconditional love, and they just blossom. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen it in so many situations, in so many cases. So I love that this is how he explains it, what love has the power of doing. We are loving to all forms of life, and life, that's supposed to be life, and to all persons, right? It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter where they are. You can be loving to strangers. I travel the world, and sometimes I'm by myself, and I'll tell you guys a brief story. I had this situation where I was in Argentina, and everyone there spoke Spanish, and I spoke absolutely no Spanish. And when I first got there, it was very difficult. Where I needed to go was 5 hours away from the major airport. I had to take a taxi, take a bus, and then take a taxi to get to my resort. And this was 10 o'clock at night. And my first experience was at that bus station. I mean, I'm there. No one spoke English. No one spoke English. And, I finally was able to communicate where I needed to go. And they were able to tell me what bus I needed to take. And I'm standing outside, and I'm really panicky because I don't know if I'm going to get on the right bus. I mean, just imagine being in Argentina and not knowing if you're going to get the right bus. And I'm standing outside like 40 minutes before my bus comes, trying to figure it out, and I'm praying like crazy. And this little old lady just comes up to me, no English at all, and she looks at my stuff and tells me where I need to go. She points, and then she introduces me to a guy who was going on the same bus and basically told me to stay with him. And so I did. And so then when I get to the little town that I have to go to, they told me where I needed to go to take a taxi. I didn't realize the taxis were all gone for the night. It's 10 o'clock at night. And so another little old lady, my little angels, came up to me, spoke no English. I told her where I was going, Costa de Esta. And she called her friend who came to pick me up and took me to the next town to my resort. It was just pure love. I know that's a little bit of a long story, but it's pure love. I was a stranger, and here these people were helping me, right? And I looked nothing like them. So to get love, you must give love, and give it freely, no strings attached. Those people had nothing to get from me, nothing. And I think about them all the time. And I tell the story all the time because of the love that I felt from them. We have to learn how to practice expressing love daily, 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 every day. You help someone. You have kind words with someone. You see someone struggling on the street. And guys, I know people don't talk about this, but I can be driving and I'll see someone walking. And it's usually like a high school kid or something. And they're walking to school. I know that they're walking to school. It's starting to rain, but they're walking to school. I will turn around, pick them up, take them to school, and then turn back around and go on my way, right? I know people don't do that kind of stuff anymore. I do. Got to be cautious, but I do, because you want to be able to help people that are in need, right? We don't need to live in fear, is I guess what I'm saying. Saying thank you is very important. Once you become loving, there are certain things that you can never do again. Love is empowering. I can honestly tell you guys that because I have become more loving, I am overwhelmed with love, just overwhelmed with people doing nice things for me, like just random acts of kindness. I gave you guys that example earlier, but I experienced that almost every day with someone. Like I would just be thinking, how am I going to do this? And it's done. Someone does it. Someone shows me. Someone tells me. Someone does it. It's just like a little problem that pops up in my head. And God sends that person my way and it's taken care of, right? And so it's all this love. And I just feel so cared for so many times, right? So, all right, but let's be real. Limits are important. And I talked about this earlier. This is not some big love fest where I think love is going to cure all, and that you must give your all. Tough love is absolutely necessary. Sometimes we cross from love to enabling. I spoke about that earlier. We cannot allow people to just forget their responsibilities and not be accountable for their own actions. If a person makes a decision, I'm trying to think of a really good example. I have several examples floating around in my head. But let's say, for example, that someone goes out and gets this car, right? And they ask your opinion. And you say, well, I don't think this is a good reason for you to get this car because of A, B, C, D, and E. And it's out of your price range, right? All these different reasons. And they do it anyway. And then before you know it, they're struggling financially. And they're having a hard time making their bills. And they want to come to you and ask you for money. But you told them not to do that. So here they are driving around in this BMW and can't pay their bills. What are you going to do if this is your son or your daughter or your child, your brother, your sister, whoever, and they're coming to you saying, I need you to help me pay my light bill because I can't pay it because I'm driving around in a BMW. You might have to say no. You might have to say, no, I'm not paying your light bill because I told you not to buy that BMW. Maybe you need to think about turning that BMW back in and getting a more reasonable car so that you can then afford your bills. You see what I'm saying? So we have to set those kind of limits. Otherwise, what are they going to learn? They're not going to learn anything. I heard this story about this guy's uncle who flew to Paris and was in Paris and had a really wonderful time and couldn't get back home. Apparently he had gotten a one-way ticket. And everybody in the family was asking, how is he going to be able to afford this trip? How can he do it? He couldn't afford it. But he got there, he spent all the money he had a wonderful time, and the family had to bring him back home. Of course, you can't leave your family members in Paris, but at some point you have to hold them responsible. So limits are very important. All right, saying no is love too. When we don't allow others to suffer the consequences of their actions, we cripple them emotionally. We deprive them of the ability to learn from their mistakes. We also take away their ability to overcome their problems and change their lives for the better. I believe in every single word of this, because here we are trying to love so much, and we forget that sometimes loving means letting them suffer through the consequences. Love of self. Many don't take the time to learn who they are, but want other people to love them as they are. We talked about this a little bit earlier. Take time to get to know who you are and learn to love yourself. And now what you've all been waiting for, the secret to love, which is forgiveness. I talk about this a lot with my clients. Forgiveness of self and forgiveness of others. Guys, if you can learn to forgive another person for what they have done, you will be able to love anyone at any time. And you might be saying, how can I forgive someone who sexually abused me, physically abused me? Again, you are going to protect yourself. You're not going to expose yourself to that danger. I never said you were going to do that. If you were involved in a domestic violent relationship, you're not going to go back and be with that person just because you can forgive them. But you're going to be able to stay away, forgive them for what they did, understand that maybe it was drug induced, maybe it had to do with their upbringing, their background, their self-esteem, all kinds of reasons, right? You can understand that. And you can forgive them for what they did to you, but you don't have to subject yourself to that again. And you can just love them for where you are. But when you can do that, you can love anybody. And that means you can love yourself and you can be happy. We are human. No one is perfect. We all make mistakes, every single one of us. And here's the thing. If you can't forgive someone else for the mistakes that they made, how are you going to forgive yourself, and who's going to forgive you? Right? Anyway, I could go on and on about that. We do the best we can with what we have at the time that we have it. When we make a decision about something in our life, it's based on the facts that we have right this very moment, right this minute. We can't be a Tuesday morning quarterback of what happened on Monday Night Football, right? Because it's not going to work. You have to learn to take your time in making decisions, be very mindful, meditate on it. I pray every single morning, God, please guide my thoughts, my words, my tone, and my deeds, that I may do your will today. And when I have to make a decision, I try to think it through. I try to pray on it. I try to meditate on it. If it's a quick decision that I have to make, I have to trust that I'm making the right decision at that moment for that time. And if I didn't make the right decision, then I'm going to learn from it, because I'm going to review it by the end of the night anyway, right? So that's love of yourself. That's forgiving yourself and forgiving that other person for the decisions that they made based on what they had. Respect of self and others. Guys, you have to allow people to be who they are, where they are. We're not all in the same place. And that's what's so difficult, because we want everyone to be on the same level, and people are not on the same level. And I can be honest, I'm the first one. That becomes frustrating for me, because I want everyone to be here. And can you see that? Here. And sometimes a person is just not there. Cognitively, they can't get there. Emotionally, they can't get there. Socially, they can't get there. They can't get there. And so then you just have to say, well, they're doing the best they can with what they have. Dr. Hawkins talks about that a lot. Forgive is the secret. Forgiveness is the secret to love. You can never obtain peace in the outer world until you make peace within yourself. Isn't that just a beautiful, beautiful picture? When you look at that, you just feel peaceful. And that's what I'm hoping for you guys, that when you learn to forgive, that you will have this peace inside of you that just radiates out, so that other people can just feel that love coming from you. So get your love on. So we are here to help you to love more. Gateway to Counseling offers mental health, online mental health counseling. We are your objective friend, and just a click away. We're only $49 a session whether by phone or video. All you have to do is go to our website, www.gateway2counseling.com. That was weird how that just showed up there. All right, so we are done. So I'm going to unmute in case anybody has any final comments. Yes, anybody have any final comments?
I really liked it. This webinar. It was really helpful.
Oh, good.
Very good. Yeah. Really nicely put together.
Great. Thank you. Do we have any other comments, Tamika or Leslie?
This is Tamika. I'm just thankful for the invite, and I needed to hear this at this time because it definitely speaks to me. I'm definitely challenged to love again, still holding on to the past and need to let go, need to forgive to be able to move forward. So I truly appreciate this presentation being put together and for the invite.
Thank you very much. All right, Miss Leslie, do you have anything to say as we come to a close?
Oh, I thank you and enjoy. I'm reading the book now, The 5 Love Languages of Love. This was very helpful to encourage me because I don't get too much encouragement from others, but God. And without God, it would be impossible. Any relationship is work, and with God is possible. So thank you for this webinar.
You're welcome. All right, guys. Well, guess what? It's 8:01. We did perfect timing. Thank you all so very much for participating. And I will see you guys maybe next month. We will be focusing on self-esteem and springing into the new you. So, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.